In the heart of Abongji village, where the great Iroko trees stretched toward the sky, there was a rule no one dared to break: never follow the footprints into the forest. They would appear after every full moon, a single set of small, bare footprints, leading from the village square into the depths of the forest. No one knew where they came from. No one knew who or what left them. But everyone knew the stories, whispers of those who had followed and never returned. Adana, a 15-year-old girl with a restless heart, had always been warned by her grandmother. The forest is not for wandering feet, child. Some paths are not meant to be walked. But on this particular morning, as she fetched water from the stream, she saw the fresh footprints once more. The villagers hurried past, pretending not to notice. But something about them called to her. Just a little peek, she whispered to herself. What if I only follow for a short while? So, against every warning, Adana stepped onto the path. At first, nothing seemed strange. Birds chirped. The wind rustled the leaves. But as she walked deeper, the forest grew eerily silent. The air turned thick, and the trees seemed closer. Then, she heard it, a faint humming. A child's voice. She stopped. The footprints had ended at the base of a giant baobab tree. But there was no child. She turned to leave. But the path was gone. The trees around her seemed alive now, their branches curling like fingers. The air buzzed with whispers. Then, a shadow moved. From behind the tree, a boy appeared. His skin was pale, his clothes old and tattered. His eyes were deep, endless pools of darkness. You shouldn't have come, he whispered. Adana's heart pounded. Who are you? I am the first who followed. Fear seized her. Was this one of the lost villagers? Leave before they see you, he pleaded. Before they take you too. Adana turned to run. But roots shot up from the ground, wrapping around her ankles. A deep, rumbling voice echoed through the trees. A new one has come. A new one must stay. The boy's face twisted in sorrow. The forest must always have a keeper. If you stay, I can leave. Adana's breath caught. He had been trapped here, waiting for someone to take his place.
The roots pulled tighter. The whispers grew into chanting. And Adana screamed. The next day, the villagers woke to find the footprints again, fresh, leading into the forest. But this time, they were larger. Adana's footprints. And just like before, the villagers looked away. Because in Obanji village, some paths are not meant to be walked. The moment Adana screamed, everything changed. The ground shook, the whispering voices grew louder, and the roots tightened around her. The pale boy stepped back, his dark eyes filled with both regret and relief. It has been so long, he whispered, his body beginning to fade. Wait, Adana shouted, but it was too late. He vanished. The curse had chosen. She was the new keeper now. The forest grew silent again. The roots loosened, releasing her, but something felt different. She could feel the pulse of the trees, the whisper of the wind. The forest was inside her now. And the worst part, she could no longer leave. Days passed, then weeks. Adana wandered through the endless forest, but no matter how far she walked, she always ended up back at the great baobab tree. She had become part of it. She tried screaming, she tried running, she tried begging, but the forest only whispered back, reminding her of the rule. A new one must stay. She was trapped. One night, under the light of the full moon, she heard footsteps. Not hers, not the forest's, real footsteps. She turned, heart pounding, and saw a young man stepping hesitantly onto the path, following the footprints, just as she had. Adana's breath caught. Another one. The forest rustled in anticipation. The whispers grew louder. The moment he saw her, he froze. Who are you? Adana opened her mouth to warn him. But instead, words she did not choose came out. You shouldn't have come. Her own voice sounded distant. Hollow. The young man hesitated, eyes filled with fear. Then, he turned to run. But the trees moved, blocking his way. Adana wanted to help him. She wanted to scream, to tell him to leave. But the forest controlled her now. She was the keeper. The stranger's scream echoed through the night as the roots wrapped around his ankles. Adana watched, helpless, as his body sank into the earth, just as hers had before. The forest was choosing its next victim. A new one must stay. And just as the pale boy had done before her, Adana began to fade. The last thing she saw was the stranger's face, frozen in terror, before everything went dark. The moment her body vanished, the footprints appeared once more, leading back to the village. By morning, they would be fresh in the dirt again. And the villagers would look away. She woke up at the edge of the village, lying in the dirt. The sky was still dark, the forest behind her eerily silent. The footprints were gone. Had it all been real? The girl turned to look at the forest one last time. The trees stood still, but deep in the shadows, two hollow eyes watched her. The curse was not broken. It was waiting for another traveler.